Story 1. Convinced my parents that it was a good idea to move and that it was nicer in Virginia. My sister's friend was so creepy, and I wanted her to stop coming over. Edit. They were already thinking about moving, I just pushed for it. Story 2. I told a girl that I had only been talking to for 3 days that I was going to jail that Friday. I was and did. She expected me to miss her. It was only a weekend in jail, but she sent me over 50 texts and calls, telling me how much she loved and missed me. I ended up blocking her on everything. She tracked me down at work 3 months later by going to every location of the grocery store chain I worked for until she found me. When she did, it caused a huge scene in which the police were called. She was banned from the store, and I got a temporary restraining order against her. Story 3. I greatly embellished how much traveling I do for my job. It's a lot, 15 to 20 weeks of the year, but as far as she knows, I am basically only home during major holidays. Story 4. I was at a party and this girl who was trying to hook up with me came over and sat on my lap. I then pretended to pass out drunk in the chair until she got up and left 20 minutes later. The worst part was I thought she left the party, but she was in the bathroom and came out to see me alive and well. Story 5. I moved to Italy to au pair because he just wouldn't get the message that we were broken up. He sent me mixtapes and airline letters all year. I came home and started dating someone else. He befriended my new boyfriend, and they'd both wait for me to finish my waitressing shifts. Eventually, he got the message when I got married, but years later we met for dinner and I asked why he'd made friends with my husband. In case it didn't work out, was the answer. Story 6. When I was 15, there was this guy in my year who I went on a couple of dates with. He always kept pushing to come to my house, so one day when my parents were both at work, I let him. I was generally quite new to the whole dating scene and didn't realize that he was going to seriously try to make a move on me and kiss me. After he tried to put his arms around me a few times, I realized what he wanted to do. In that moment, I realized I had absolutely no feelings for him. Not knowing what to do and being an awkward teenager, I decided that being honest with him was the worst idea possible. So I pretended that my phone was ringing, went to the kitchen, and had an argument with supposedly my dad, myself, on the phone and ended it with, "Fine, I'll ask him to leave. I hate you, Dad." I went back to him and basically told him that my dad was coming back home. He knows he's here, and if he finds him, he'll kill him. That guy has avoided me and my family ever since. It's a little immature, but I was 15, insecure, and immature myself, so I don't care about it so much now. Summary. I made my date think that my dad was going to kill him if he came near again, just so I wouldn't have to continue dating him. Story 7. I used to frequent a supermarket a couple of minutes down the road from my work. There was a girl on the cooked chicken counter who was clearly interested in me. She seemed really lovely, and had I not had a girlfriend, I probably would have asked her out. One day I got back to the office and realized she had written her phone number on the bag my food came in with a couple of kisses for good measure. I hate rejecting people and I'm awkward as heck, so I did the only rational thing I could. I straight up abandoned that supermarket for life and started having to make 20-minute round trips to the next closest one. Story 8. I can't see you anymore. I'm a drug dealer. What drugs? Cocaine. I love cocaine. And heroin. Let me see your stash? I used to work at a testing site for addicts. I am just curious if you were giving bad stuff to them. I just stopped responding. Obviously, that wasn't an accurate portrayal of our entire conversation. It was like 50 messages back and forth. But she had an excuse for everything. I could have told her I was actually a Central Intelligence Agency assassin. And she would say, "Oh yeah, my dad was too. Cool." Or something. Story 9. In 9th grade, there was a girl in my class who wanted to ask me to be her Valentine. And I knew she would ask me towards the end of the day because some friends of mine told me. Being the awkward loner of a teenager that I was, got nervous. When I saw her walking towards me after the last bell, I hurried to the stairs. She had almost caught up to me when I did a sweet pivot and slid right past her. She tried to follow me, tripped, fell down the stairs, and fractured her right tibia. That was one of the most embarrassing and, oh no, what have I done moments of my school life. I didn't know whether to say sorry or what, because that would mean me accepting that I was trying to dodge her. So I just tried to react normally through my horror, and we called the nurse who called an ambulance. She ended up missing school for over a month, and I still can't get over the fact that someone broke their leg thanks to me being a ridiculously shy person. Story 10. In middle school, I was on a road trip, and the girl would not stop texting me and trying to call me. I was younger and just wanted to explore these cool places. We were currently in the Badlands, South Dakota. So I took my indestructible slide phone and threw it off a cliff. The vacation went a lot smoother after that. Note: yes, I know I littered, and yes, I know I could have just turned my phone off and said my phone was dead. It wasn't the solution I needed, but the solution I wanted. Story 11. Not a lover admirer, but a friend admirer. I was living in Thailand in a small village. There were a couple of other white people in the area, and we all became friends. I didn't particularly like one of them because I thought she was obnoxious, and I honestly just found her existence to be annoying and selfish. One day, she was outside my complex and texted me, saying she saw my light on and asked to let her inside because she lost her keys. Not wanting her to know I could have seen the message pop up, I deleted all the apps that could show I was online, turned off my phone, threw it across the room under a pillow, and slept all night with the light on just so I could use the excuse, "Oh, I fell asleep with the light on by accident," instead of just telling her to walk down the street to someone else's house. Story 12. Convinced a Tinder date that she didn't want anything to do with me because my brother and I were bad people involved in organized crime. This was after she told me she might love me the second time we met. She cried a lot, but it did the trick, I guess. Story 13. When I was at university, my friend told an acquaintance of mine that he had a child and a complicated relationship with his ex. He even showed her a picture and would go on about this child. Story 14. Had a friend tell her I was killed in combat. She visited my mother to express her condolences, and mom was not updated. I wanted to avoid talking with her. Story 15. Spread the rumor that I was gay. In India, I'm in a very Muslim city, in a place where interreligion marriages and public displays of affection are met with mob violence. I really did not want to date her. I could have done a better job, but 7th grade is 7th grade. Story 16. I changed my high school just to avoid this girl who was known for eating art supplies and attacking Muslims. We have mutual friends, and I found out she stopped eating art supplies and got a girlfriend in high school, and I'm happy for them both. Edit. She does not attack Muslims anymore either. Story 17. One time I quit my job to get away from her, but she then started showing up at my gym, so I changed gyms. Another time, I had to leave college and block her on almost all platforms just to be free. Story 18. My mom had an unrelenting admirer when she was a teen. Apparently, he was rich and bought her a Louis Vuitton wallet and more. My mom tried to make him disgusted by telling him that she smokes. He showed up the next day with packets of cigarettes for her. Story 19. Back in high school, a strange girl was pretty much stalking me. She asked me out at lunch once, and I said no, but that wasn't enough. I got to speak with her in private outside of school. She started with her first word, and I immediately screamed at the top of my lungs for over 20 seconds to scare her off. Even in physical education class, I had never seen her run before, but she really sprinted when I did that. Story 20. I told her that I was going to kill myself because I was depressed, and she called the police and told them about it and where I lived. I had to explain to the chief why I said that, and he laughed and said it didn't surprise him. She seemed kind of crazy. Story 21. I put a new guy friend on my top friends on MySpace. My admirer was so hurt. I felt really bad. There's no going back once you put someone on your top 10. Does anyone even remember MySpace? Haha. Story 22. Pretended I didn't recognize her after not seeing her for a while, and when she confronted me, I told her I was in a car accident and had no recollection of my past. Not my proudest moment. Story 23. I had a stalker who would leave notes at my work for me. We eventually met, and it was terrifying. But it turns out all I had to do was tell her my life story, and she left me alone. I guess it pays to be a piece of trash sometimes. Story 24. I was the bartender in my parents' pub. She had been pursuing me for months. I thought and still believe that she was one of the most ignorant and annoying people I had ever met. I gave a friend a condom, a shot of whiskey, a pint of Guinness, and 2 Jaeger bombs to get her out of my way. He did it on the condition that I told no one. She broke the sink in the disabled toilet. Sorry if you were reading this, but you did me a favor. Story 25. Well, a girl from California liked me, so I moved to Arizona. Then, a girl from Arizona liked me, so I moved back to California. But then, the first girl liked me, so I moved to Oregon. Then, a different girl from Arizona liked me, so I pretended to join the army so I didn't have to talk to her anymore. Story 26. I told someone I had cancer and was going to die. I was already deleting all my social media anyway. My Facebook page is still up, though, and every year this person writes, "Rest in peace, we miss you." People who have seen it like it because they think the person just wants me back on social media. So because of this guy really thinks I died. Story 27. I paddled my kayak over a waterfall once, and another time I moved to Guatemala. And damn, if the guy didn't call saying he bought a ticket and was on his way. No, you're not. Story 28. I was at this girl's house for New Year's. It was very uncomfortable for me. Around 1 a.m., I had to find a way out. I told her my stepbrother was in the hospital. I drove off and ghosted her. Not my proudest moment. But she's happy now, so she's fine, I guess. Story 29. I had a buddy named Tony who was married for less than a year and wasn't happy. He got married in his early 40s and hated it. So, Tony told his new wife he was gay and tried to be heterosexual, but it wasn't for him. She didn't believe him, so he lied again and said he was involved with a coworker named Todd. His wife called Todd's wife, and Todd didn't know anything about it. Todd's wife believed Tony's wife, claiming that she always saw signs that Todd was gay. Once again, Todd is not gay and is still confused. Tony and Todd were both divorced that year. Story 30. I told a girl I was not home and did not want to see her at all. She was very unattractive, smelled bad, and was just a generally awful person. The type to say, "Well, I like you and there's nothing you can do about it." She harassed me for weeks in middle school. So she calls me on my home phone. I assume one of my female friends gave it to her because I didn't from her cell phone from the front of my house. I was standing in the front window on the house phone, told her I wasn't home, and to not bother calling again. I think she got the hint because I never heard from her again, and she even stopped bothering me at school the very next day. Story 31. An intern at work got my number and wouldn't stop calling despite the efforts I put into avoiding her. Then, on one of her routine calls, I slipped into the conversation that I was engaged. That did it. Story 32. Pretended to be gay and convinced my guy friend to be pretend gay with me. Just call me pet names and hold my hand. I did end up kissing my friend to try to convince her, but it wasn't gay since it was in self-defense. It was at this high school party, and this trashy girl kept hounding me. Story 33. We went out once, and he was super creepy, but I wanted the free dinner. He wasn't getting any of my no signals and kept trying to kiss me. I obviously avoided this at all costs. He wanted to walk through the park and hold hands like we were in a relationship, and I kept telling him he made me uncomfortable, and he didn't seem to care. I told him I didn't like to be kissed or touched or anything like that. He said, "Oh, okay. We can work on that, baby." When I got home, I texted him and told him we couldn't date. He asked why, and I said I wasn't into him, and he said, "We'll just keep talking until you do. Weirdo." So I finally said, "I have a daughter. She's 11 months old. Her name is Marcella. I'm not ready to bring new men into her life." I thought I was, but I'm not. "I'm sorry." He said, "Oh, I don't want to be a dad anyway." I was like 19 at the time, and he really just lost it at that. So Garrett, if you're reading this, I don't have any kids. You're just really weird. Story 34. My sister was in a relationship for years that she would not give up on. Anytime they would break up, she would show up at his house trying to fix it. It was the only time I have ever seen her be crazy. After years of breaking up and making up, she was finally working in her field, having recently graduated and got a really great job. So he took this opportunity to move to Russia. He thought she would not give up her flourishing career. She quit her job, packed up, and followed suit. They were there for 3 months before they came back and had to live at our house since she sold everything and broke the lease on her apartment. Fun times. Thankfully, she dumped him a few years later and is not crazy anymore. Story 35. I once gave up my local subway, which was literally a 3-minute walk from the house, and I had to give it up because of an admirer who worked there and couldn't take a hint. It doesn't sound like much, but it hurt. Story 36. Had a girl who wouldn't take no for an answer. We had sex once. So I asked her best friend, who had flirted with me in the past, for sex but not to tell her. It sent her into a rage, but after that, I never heard from her. Story 37. I took a job that sent me to South America for 6 months to get out of a relationship, then continued with it and traveled the world until I met the next one. Does that count? Story 38. A new girl joined our drinking party circle. She did not stop trying to make something happen, despite me clearly stating I didn't want anything to happen. She tried to get me more drunk than I was comfortable with, engaged in endless aggressive flirting, tried to guilt-trip me into escorting her home. I live in the complete opposite direction, and her older sister was there every time with her. And she blocked me every time I showed interest in anyone else, to the point where she accidentally spilled a full glass of red wine on a girl. Quite annoying, she did not take the hint. However, she was out of the country one time when all of us were drinking, including her older sister. So I ended up with her sister, and for good measure, I was with her sister again 2 days later. They had a huge shouting match the next time she was home about a week later when she returned from the trip. Not specifically about this, they were just arguing about a bunch of seemingly random incidents like breaking the TV and stealing a dress. The older sister moved out 3 weeks later, permanently. I was invited to her housewarming party. I was very uneasy about going, but I decided to go anyway with a very expensive whiskey and a nice bottle of vodka. I had a good time because, as I later learned, the younger sister was not invited, as they still weren't on speaking terms. So, I would not recommend. We're running in different circles now, and I don't know how they are doing. It seemed like a genuinely good idea at the time, but in my defense, I was quite drunk the first time. I don't have any excuses for the second one.